Hello and welcome back, lovely people, cool friends included from Detoxifying Masculinity and the universe in general. This will be still day 3 from me of interviewing, but for you guys, it is day 5. And today we are joined by my gaming buddy, Luka,
Hello.
from Canada. And Luka, would you like to tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Because I don't believe you've been able to make it to a meeting, but we will go into some of the reasons about that during this call, I am sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am a game designer. I design tabletop RPGs. I am a full-time undergrad student. I am doing gender study. Currently, I'm actually going to change my major to philosophy. But I'm currently, I will be doing a double major in law and society, which is less about laws and society and more about equality in society, at least from what I've seen of it so far. And I am a mother of 4, yes, mother. I have 4 high needs children, and I'm doing it all as a single parent.
Well, you have ruined my first question, which I was going to transition into saying, like, oh, Luka, you just started on a grand journey with academics. Tell us a little bit about that. But you ruins it. It ruins it.
No.
But yes,
do you want to do a retake? Or?
No, we're not. No retakes. Fuck it, we're doing it live. But no. But I'm glad you mentioned it. And I wanted to ask you, A, how are those classes going? B, I thought you were continuing with the gender studies focus. Why are you changing it? Now I'll save C for later, so you're not too overwhelmed.
Yeah. This is the tail end of a long fucking week for me. What was the party again?
The first question is, how are they going? Second question,
right.
why did you change, or why are you going to change majors?
Okay, so I am a train wreck of a human being. So my brain keeps telling me that I'm panicking and I'm going to fail everything. Meanwhile, I've been keeping up all along. Like, I had excuses for when my stuff was late. All my homework's turned in on time. I attend. I've at least attended, but my brain doesn't want to recognize this. It's like, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail. Like, bitch, shut up. I have 3,600 words left, and I'm done till January. And a Spanish test. Yeah, so it's going fine. It's interesting because I took moral philosophy specifically because I finally started watching The Good Place, and I wanted to. One of my interests is gender roles and masculinity and whiteness. And one of the things I'm interested in studying is where they come from. From my perspective, and I don't know if this is too much or not enough, so you can edit as you see fit, but from my perspective, I grew up as, I think I'm like 15th generation Canadian, Irish Newfoundlander. So from my perspective, I didn't grow up white. I grew up Irish Newfoundlander. I had an identity. And it's interesting to me that other people don't. And I've come to the conclusion that whiteness Agent Smith's ethnicities. Because I'm not actually Caucasian. All of my people are from Ireland. Mm-hmm. I'm Anglo-Celtic. Mm-hmm. So, but somewhere along the way, it's like, I don't know how I fucking became white, and I kind of need to understand how that happened. Mm-hmm. The joys of having a neurodivergent brain.
No, I think it must have been you then posting on Facebook or some social place.
It's usually me.
About
if it was a snarky hot take, it was probably me.
Well, it was about exactly what you're talking about, how we as white people have this idea of where we came from. I don't know as clearly as you. I've traced my I did during the quarantine. I did the ancestry.com thing and traced my lineage back quite a bit, but still within America. And I have a tentative connection to Europe. It's not confirmed yet, but my last name is Scottish, so I always assumed I was Scottish, and I'm trying to figure things out. But the person who did this post was talking about how Black Americans do not have this same privilege.
Yeah.
For the elephant in the room reason of slavery and them being brought over and having that part of their life and that history stripped away from them, and they clung onto certain aspects that resonate today, like through art, generally speaking, but religion, language, history have been clean slated for them.
Listen, I've had relatives who were treated really shittily. Like, that's the thing you hear. Anyway, we got a little bit off, but I'll just say this and then go back. The thing about us being Irish and the whole, like, Irish second-class citizens, Irish forced diaspora and everything, that is true. But for anybody out there who doesn't understand the difference of how it has stopped affecting us, like, you can't make the comparison because it doesn't bother me anymore. Nobody's treating me shittily because I had Irish ancestors. That's the privilege of whiteness. And people, like, as somebody who grew up as the Irish part of the Irish Newfoundlander, stop it. Stop saying it. It's not true. You're wrong. Just stop.
And speaking of that, this is something I asked you to think about in preparation for this interview, because, and this hasn't been said yet, maybe you would like to do the coming out. You alluded to it, but would you like to officially make the statement?
Yes. I do not actually have a Y chromosome. I don't want to say a sign. Okay, let me preface this. I will not speak in general terms of transgender people. If I speak, it is only for myself and my perspective and what I believe. And if anybody takes this as, oh, well, a trans, you can go fuck yourself. No. My personal belief is that I might not have necessarily been born in the wrong body. I'm just no longer that person. For me, my gender expression is a scale. And it just so happens that I'm on a different end of it right now. That happens to be masculine in presentation. So.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense to me. Should make sense to most of the audience of Detoxifying Masculinity. Anyone else listening, you're getting an education. But what I was getting, the question I was leading up to was the thing I wanted you to think about, how from being a white female projecting person,
it's okay, guys. He doesn't have to watch his words. It's okay. He has permission.
Thank you. I've actually never experienced it, but I have had friends who have experienced the wrath.
I'm incredibly mellow. So, like, he's not speaking to anybody else, just to me. He has special permission. Fuck off.
And now,
hate people for me. Like, I don't need your protection. It's cool. I wouldn't be sitting here talking with him like this if it wasn't cool.
Thank you.
So,
to your current presentation as a masculine white person, has the way strangers approached you, treated you, changed? Or what have you noticed?
Well, I'm still very queer. You can't really tell because I have, like, pandemic hair, and none of you can see this video anyway. But, like, you see the pink? Yeah, that's, like, there's, like, yes. 6 inches of roots. Like, kind of right now I just enjoy surprising, like, I don't fit the gender stereotype. I don't even bind most days. I kind of it's not so much that I enjoy shocking people. I just don't give a fuck anymore. There's a wonderful thing that happens to people with two X chromosomes, and some with XY, as I understand. When you get near 40, you approach a level of ascension called fucklessness.
I've heard of this.
It's brilliant stuff. I highly recommend it. But one of the fun things about my transition, about how people around me reacted, my late spouse, he liked saying that he was legally gay. That it started with a girl, but it didn't end with one. And you know, like he, whatever else you could say about him, I mean, like he didn't expect to end up married to a man, you know, but it didn't matter to him. You know, so you kind of get the range of like, it's just like the range of reactions. Most people are fine, even in my little parochial fucking corner of Canada, is getting with the program. But I also acknowledge that I have the privilege of living in the capital city, so like this is what constitutes civilization, like New York, as opposed to like the rural areas of upstate.
True.
You know, where the downside of being a very close-knit Irish-centered place is that we are close-knit and Irish. With all
Did you hear about our Tom? He's a gay man now.
Yes, I heard. But he's... that's what I mean. Like, there's a lot of ignorance and a lot of hate. Like, I would never have thought that somebody would put up a White Lives Matter placard in their window near me, but it happened. It's been fun to come to terms with that also, because the identity we have of newbies, that's not who we are. That's not who we're supposed to be. You know, like we're the people who, it wasn't St. John's, but Gander. You ever hear "Come From Away"?
I've heard of it. Yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes, Come From Away. The film about the geese, right?
No.
No.
The planes that landed in Gander on 9/11.
Oh no, I've never heard of these. Go ahead.
Yeah. The world, basically, when the world came to town, Gander's like 10,000 people. Well, nice place. St. John's is much bigger. We're the people who open our doors to strangers when tragedy hits. You know, like the people who landed at Gander came from overseas, and the town of Gander, as small as they were, just everything opened. And it's actually like, I think there's a movie and there's a play now. Maybe Broadway? I don't know. I know there's definitely a play. The joke is there's 3 places to come from in Newfoundland. Town, which is where I am. Round the Bay, which is everywhere else. And Up Away, which is the rest of the world. So that's who we're supposed to be. That's who I was raised to think we were. And, you know, like, I have a lot of privilege. I've never been attacked as a woman. I'm avoiding triggery words for your audience. I've never seriously had my life threatened, but it is quite a different culture than I thought it would be. And I don't like it. And one of the things that I've learned to do, and part of how I'm defining my own masculinity, is to do something about it. As a gamer, there's not a lot of people who have this kind of training or focus in their education. For those of us that have higher education related to this stuff. So I kind of feel I've done more than enough bitching about how fucked up my industry is, and it's time for me to actually do something about it. Anyway, that's why I'm now changing my study from gender studies to philosophy. Long story short. But my philosophy professor convinced me, like, no matter what I want to do, because I do want to do grad school.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what I want to do, like, it doesn't matter what my degree is if I can make a good enough case to do a master's. So, like, for example, he's teaching, he was teaching a second-year philosophy course. His actual undergrad degree is in classics.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't. It's interesting too because I'm trying to tie everything back for you, because it's kind of what we have to do as male presenting, isn't it? It's you have to adapt, be willing to change. If you see something that looks like a better path, take it. I like to say that I have a pretty unique mindset, and Jesus Christ, I sound like I feel like a turf in my own head, but there is some truth that hormones influence. My thoughts are different. I don't know if that's because of my transition or if it's because I've been doing mindfulness practice or what, but I don't.
Or you're growing, just.
Yeah. I know what it's not. I know that for my partner, I want to be the man that I would have wanted to have. And you know what? It's a lot fucking simpler. It's one of the things I'm trying to teach my 15-year-old now is the earlier you can learn to say I'm sorry, and the earlier you can learn to not jump to a defensive mindset when you're the one in the wrong, it's the easier life will be. So that's why I'm changing my major.
So that you can.
I need a joint.
Go ahead.
But I live where it's legal. So so do you guys. Yay, New York. Oh my god! When I went to Metatopia, you have no idea how much I wanted to jump across the river and go fucking smoke. Because I was in New Jersey, which isn't legal, and this is key pain medication for me. So by day 4, I needed emergency massage and an oxy. I was just like, but New York is right there.
Well, the strange thing is now, possession of a certain amount in New York, they're not arresting you for, but it's not technically legal. Sort of like Amsterdam. But they did that here too. Yeah, but Jersey is just legalized, actually selling it, but New York is still not legalized to that point. So,
but don't you have dispensaries?
No.
Or is that just the city?
The city technically doesn't have dispensaries, except unless you need it for medication. If you have a card or something that says that I legally get weed for medication. I like the vans that drive around that have the weed candies. They have all these disclaimers on the front. I'm sure they sell on the side.
Man, it's so much fucking. Oh, it's so much nicer. Like, do you know what it's like to be able to control your weed? It's fucking fantastic. Especially for me. I'm a chronic user, but I've hit that functional level. I can smoke it all day and I'm barely high. But I don't feel any pain, so that's the trade-off.
Exactly.
And I'm a lot happier. My kids love dealing with stoned moms. Stoned mom is never mad. I sound like the most neglectful parent in the world here.
So actually, we've never discussed this. What do you take it for? I have a friend, Xavier, who has fibromyalgia, and he smokes to take care of that.
That's what I have.
Oh,
I have,
oh my God! I've been told it's so rare to know someone who has fibromyalgia, and now I know 3 people.
Yeah, no. Any women, especially because they happen in especially female-dominated labor fields. I got it from my years as a housekeeper, where they ground me to dust and didn't care because that's the industry, and we were unionized. And I'm not talking Canadian unions where they actually had power to do shit for the people they're supposed to do shit for. Let me rephrase that slightly, because unions down there, they do a lot of shit. Whether or not it's for the people it's supposed to be for is another question. My union was like, yeah, whatever, and workers' comp just kept sending me back for 4 years. So now, on top of fibromyalgia, I also have lost 60% of the strength in my left arm and 2% of my overall body function.
But the weed
That's
helps.
what happens. Yeah, oh, the weed. The weed has made life so much better. Hang on. Yes, dear. It's a clementine. Just dig your thumb in, and it'll peel right off. You can totally keep this.
Parenting tips 101.
This is masculinity. Oh, I'm on a phone call. They don't even say, okay, like nobody fucking says when they're leaving. I'm talking to myself half the time. You can keep that too. That's a no, seriously, because there are parents out there that are going to hear this and go, "That's me! Oh my god, I'm not the only one."
Interesting note there that to your kids, you are still mom.
Yeah, that was their choice.
That is their choice.
Yeah.
And have you asked them?
Yeah.
To call you dad? Okay.
No.
Oh.
Because for me, mom is a job. It's not my gender, it's my job. My gender doesn't... Okay, my biological sex is female. I have given birth to these kids. I am their mother.
Mm-hmm.
And it gets interesting because I've had kids correct my youngest when he calls me mom. It's like, no, baby, that's your dad. Not in our family. In our family.
Mm.
Oh, but your mom is a girl. No, in our family, mom's a boy. Interestingly enough, on that note, I was watching an episode of Absurd Planet on Netflix, it's this lighthearted show about, like, there's a woman who plays Mother Nature talking about, like, the weirdest animals or, the weirdest, and there's this episode about sexual practices, and it's fucking hilarious, but there's also a song that's like, "Are you man enough to be my mom?" And it's awesome. Kind of grayish, considering some of the language can be referred, like, to be inferred as transphobic. I certainly took it a little that way. But in the end, the message about "Are you man enough to be my mom?" I kind of really like. So
that's actually very similar to the unofficial motto for detoxifying masculinity, which comes from one of the two founders of the group, is that if you're man enough for you, you're man enough for us.
This is good weed. I know this is I have philosophy papers to write, so I took the top shelf shit.
To really get in there, and you're just going to write like a nice rough draft off of this and then go back and edit it later.
This shit is called monkey glue. Mm-hmm. It's half Gorilla Glue and half something that's like banana-y.
I think I've had Gorilla Glue before. Yeah.
Yeah. This shit is the only thing, like, I don't suffer couch lock anymore. I've ascended beyond. I've transcended couch lock. This shit keeps my ass in place without slowing my mind.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing about weed too. I have gotten so much more precise in my descriptive language. I have said posted the other day, I'm creaking like an abandoned treehouse.
That's it. Actually, last night, was it? Or the night before, that we had one of our meetings, the men's group meetings, and I did take a hit right before, and I only started smoking last year, or doing anything with it last year, to heavier extents, and I was sitting there like, I'm sorry, guys, I can't really focus right now. I'm just sort of rambling all over the place, but it feels really nice.
Yeah. See, everybody is like horrified. Wait, this is probably 4 grams already today. Mm-hmm. And look at me function. Like an adult, like a goddamn adult. Seriously though, one of the things that keeps my aggression in check as a man is this miraculous shit. Definitely, there are some things about men that are more aggressive. And I have a fairly unique viewpoint, having experienced both biologies, sort of.
Go ahead, yeah. Expand or expound upon that.
Definitely have more violent, like, in the kink community, you can be a dom, a switch, or a sub. I always thought of myself as a sub, but there's definitely some dom shit going on in there now that I don't know where the hell came from. but I've been on T for 2 years, I think. It's fuzzy. Yeah, I'm a really bad queer. I don't keep track in my transition journal. Like, I'm just like, is it? I don't even remember to take my shot sometimes. I'm a terrible fucking queer. But this is like, it's also what I think of as me kind of exploring. Like, I've slid back a little bit towards the feminine. Like I said, I don't even bind most days anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, where was I? And this is not the weed, by the way. I know it sounds like it is, but this is just my brain.
And you're doing philosophy and law, but with a focus more on, you said, equality. Do you want to talk a little bit more about that equality? I know we talked about racial equality a bit, which I'm guessing you might be leaning towards, but is that all?
No, I mean, it's a multidisciplinary field right now. There's only like technically 6 or 7 actual law and society courses. And these aren't the law courses a law student would take. These are specifically geared as to like, this is, you know, this is how it is. This is the framework to then talk about why it's not the same for everyone.
Right, which goes back to what you were talking about.
Yeah, all my courses are online, so they're
due
all
to
done
COVID.
Due to COVID. But they're all being done through Brightspace, which is an online learning tool universities use. So I had to drop 2 courses because I made myself the deal of, you know, like I was widowed this summer, and I needed to move forward. So, but I made myself the deal that if my mental health started suffering, I would sacrifice courses. I would take longer in school, which is, I think, something that we don't do enough. We don't compromise with ourselves, and we should. But when I did, unfortunately, I did have to drop those 2 courses, but one of them was the introductory course to Law and Society, which is where I was going with all of that long rambling. And in it, it was covering poverty, how race in fact does. Up here, there's a lot of white on indigenous violence, especially there's really shitty history with the RCMP and violence against indigenous women.
Was the RCMP for?
The Royal Canadian Mounted Police. We also have the RNC, which is the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. Yes, Royal, it's Canadian.
The Queen is your head of state.
Technically.
Yeah,
nobody cares.
I'm sure.
Yeah, there are benefits to being in the Commonwealth, but I don't know. Have you seen Britain lately? She's not looking good. She went home with the wrong guy. She's not looking good.
Yeah, the Scots are looking at each other like, we voted to stay in this.
Yeah, that's all right. Northern Ireland just stops being part of the world again. Apparently, like, what? Like, they're going back to gates. Oh yeah, let's have checkpoints in Northern Ireland. That's a good fucking idea. This is why this group is important.
Much earlier, you were saying how what you really want to focus in on is those how we got to where we are today. What is the impetus of, like, you're going into a little bit about poverty, race relations, gender relations, obviously for this group.
There's a lot of how basically, even not just how we got to this whiteness and this toxic masculinity. I mean, it's kind of like the deep question of it, like, is it artificial or is it natural? That's the philosophy of it. And I think that's really what... Oh, shit. I just figured out my philosophy paper in the middle of the podcast. Sorry. No, but, like, we covered, like, Kant's metaphysics and Plato's Meno. All the stuff about what is good.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we figure out what good is? I just spent hours and hours of doing this over the semester, and I think that's what I want to get at is it beyond what is like, is it us, is it bad, is it good, what is it?
Mm-hmm.
Where did it come from? Like, kind of like that core concept, what the fuck is it? And
Like sort of the old question of, are we born with sin or born without sin? Which is a very Christian view of it, but I think it, at least in the Western world, can relate.
Yeah, but for me, knowing where it came from and how we got here, though very likely a completely unsolvable mystery, make a few educated guesses, but there's not going to be a clean roadmap at any point. I want to see where it came from, because then I think only when we understand something can we begin to do anything about it.
That's just what I was going to ask. With knowing this, where do you want to go with it?
I mean, the short answer is I want to make better games and write better stories. The long answer is I don't want to be a shitty human. I don't want to be a shitty man. I don't want to leave a shitty world for my kids. And I'm not educated enough to know how to go about solving any of those problems yet.
But you're looking for the answers, which is the first step. So I think just in that alone, just that self-pushing that you are doing, that in and of itself speaks to your intelligence. That you are able to realize that I want to do this. I'm not just going to go out there and start, smashing down walls with a brick hammer and expecting that to change like race relations, to use a very poor metaphor.
I think, part of what I was reading and what I absorbed this semester in school was there's a lot of worry, because we also did the Communist Manifesto, and I think that Marx's revolution radicalized me just a little bit.
Oh yeah.
It's not like he's good at it or anything, but I can see what he was talking about. I mean, I referenced it in my paper on the topic.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in India right now with the farmers? That's the proletarian revolution. That's people who have nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, they have power. They have agency, and others
the landless workers. They don't have, in the terms of Marx. Marx viewed the landless as those who had nothing.
Okay.
Because if you, with Marx, he said, at least if you had a lord, the lord relies on you.
Right.
So the lord keeps you alive. You have use of the land for yourself as well.
Mm-hmm.
That was something you could survive. The bourgeoisie, or the big capitalist, doesn't give a shit, because you are another commodity. And everything, to look around and see it all going on today, I can start to see what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And mostly what I think has helped me kind of and I honestly don't think I'll ever solve anything, but I also think the point of being a person is trying anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I also write games and shit, so I'm not,
Well, I've been kind of shying away from the games just because I have, in several of the other interviews that I've done, I've talked about games, but I think it is important to get this full. I think it is important to get your voice in on it. I did speak to Logan, who Luca's known for a lot longer than I have, but Logan and I discussed masculinity in gaming, and I'd love to get your views on it. And I can ask you some of the same questions I asked him if you'd like,
Yeah.
or you can start with a general overview of your relationships.
Nope. Like, help me out here.
Cool. Then I will. The first question I had for him was, and this might be a doozy, but tell our listeners about how or where the intersection of game design and gender philosophy cross over.
For a long time, I didn't see it. I honestly, the first time I tried gaming was in the 90s. It was with friends of mine, and I was a cute, chubby girl with big boobs. Nobody wanted me, like, I had to put up with, players of Cyberpunk might know that there's a special thing in there called Mr. Saturday Night, which is a penis implant. I had to sit through about half an hour of listening to this being described before I couldn't take it anymore. That was my introduction. And I knew it was because I was a girl. You kind of can't avoid thinking about all of that when it's been in your face from day one. My philosophy behind it now is that gaming, honestly, anybody who doesn't think that game writers, like, if you think that game writers don't put their politics into their work, yeah, they fucking do it. Because I do. Go read The Changeling. And, like, the antagonist section of the Changeling book. There's a whole anti-vax rant that I wrote for antagonists. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I am anti-anti-vaxxers. And I have autistic children who were diagnosed when all of that was going around. But those were my politics. It's the same reason that, was it Claremont?
You would know better than I.
Chris Claremont did the run on the X-Men with the Cure. If you could cure being other, would you? It's always been there. I just think that if you didn't see it, you had the privilege of not having it. It's shown to you.
In my last conversation with a gentleman from the main group, Khalid, he and I discussed about, because he identifies as a queer man, and we discussed about how straight, cis, hetero men and women have never really had that come to Jesus moment with themselves of, this is who I am. They never had a coming out. We, as queer people of whatever color of the rainbow, we have had to at some point say, oh, I am this, because it is not the default.
Yeah, there is a definite ding. Whether it lasts long or whether you even really notice it, there's still a holy shit. That explains everything. You hear the exactly what that was, the oh yeah, I know that feeling laugh of all the queers across the world. Yeah, I know that feeling. Oh yeah, it makes sense now. I had an interesting experience. I had to go drop my tablet off at the mall to be repaired. And when I was coming out, I mean, we're under a pandemic, so everybody's masked, supposed to be staying 6 feet apart. So I'm coming out of the mall, and this woman holds the door. So I was like, "Thank you," and I ducked past, and I hear her go, "You could have held it," as I walk by her. And I went outside, and I'm like, and I realized at that moment, because this is the shit I think about now, at that moment that what a Karen truly is somebody who doesn't know how to not think out loud, because everybody has those fucking thoughts. I've been holding the door for people thinking you could have fucking held this as they walk by, but I don't say it. They do. That is what. Like,
no filter, essentially. Yeah.
Right? It's like whatever that switch is that the rest of us have that have fucking courtesy for other people. You know, the social contract is not the next person holds it. The social contract is you hold the door, you take the risk of holding it forever. You know? Or you let it go and hit somebody in the face. That's your moral decision. You know, but that's Karen's. Karen thinks that, you know, well, oh, my part, I opened it. That's enough, right? And then they think the rest of the shit out loud.
Mm.
You know, this is what I think about now as a philosophy student. So, yay.
Well, continuing with the gaming questions, do you feel the gaming community is embracing a more progressive view of gender equality, gender otherness, gender progressiveness?
Indeed, yes.
Logan said the same thing.
Ish. Depends on who you ask, what day you ask them on, and who's done what lately. Like I said, it's. I mean, come on. I mean, come the fuck on. We're not going to get any better by denying that it is a goddamn toxic morass. You know, we have people who are saying, "Oh well, why do gays have to be in the world? Because we fucking exist, you asshole." The rest of us, you told us for so fucking long, go make your own shit. Well, now we have. I might get a little soapboxy there.
But actually, I wanted to say this during our conversation, but it never really felt like a good time. But I sort of want to have an aside here and say thank you to the people that I have played with, and you included in this, that I have never, there was one time I had a bad experience at a gaming table, and luckily it had nothing to do with people being like assholes in a regular way. The DM had a power complex problem, and they wanted to sort of control people.
Yeah, I had one.
But but it was a one shot, and moved past it. We're good. But every other time my first Dungeons and Dragons experience, my DM was a woman, and I played with another girl, and then two guys. And the two guys are both straight. But being at that table, like, queerness was never questioned. It was never asked, why is your character this way?
I know that a lot of people are out of fucks with the way the gaming industry is. A lot of us are just out of fucks with a lot of things. And the funny thing about the pandemic is they said, oh, well, we can't do this. We can't do... Yes, you fucking could, because look how fucking fast you did. We can't let people work from home. How's that working out now? We can't do this. We can't do that. Yeah, how's that working out?
All the technology companies were like, yeah, our people can work from home. And then they're doing it, and they're like, yeah, we're probably going to let them work from home through the end of 2021. And
yeah, Facebook is like, now they're permanently doing it. And yeah. Like, I'll say that they're not. I do believe that it is the future. I think that the way that university is structured makes sense, because as an adult you have a range of circadian rhythms, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But for school, you know the reason why? Well, what I think. I'm not an expert on this, but what I think, or what I have reasoned as the reason school is from 9 to 3,
mm-hmm.
is because that's when the kids were least needed on the farms, and that worked really well when, like, you know, significant percentages of the population were in agriculture or rural. But, you know, keeping the same schedule, the kids are not getting up as early. And there have been studies that show that children especially learn best in the afternoons, or like later in the morning. So like I know I'm not at my best when I first wake up. But if you think about it, if a farm kid has to get up at 3 or 4, 9 o'clock is lunchtime.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why everything couldn't just shift ahead. And I think like when we were doing it with the kids at home, the school was 10 to 2. They had 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. And most of that, we watched fucking Night at the Museum for history. We're going to watch this movie, you pick a character, and you do some research on them. Like, there are ways around it. But I don't think that the way we currently live, the way we structure our homes and our cities, I think it's probably because like there's a lot of real estate that's going to go unused. Homes by right should have an office if you're going to work from them. Somewhere you can go where you can close the door and be left alone.
And somewhere that's not like the bedroom, so that you have this sense of going into this room to either go to sleep or
your bedroom is supposed to be your relaxation area.
Yeah.
I'm one of those weirdos that is surrounded by all my books and research and like schoolwork because that is relaxing. They shouldn't be like huddled up on their sheets with their laptop. Like, that's not appropriate for work. It is in the short term, but it's not a long-term solution. I honestly think that society Westerners need to grow the fuck up. Look at it's the same concept I have of the kids in the house. You're stepping over the fucking garbage. Just reach down and pick it up.
It'll make life easier for everyone involved.
Yes.
That's including you.
When they're in a room, everyone just does 5 fucking minutes of cleaning. Do you know how clean the house would be? You know how clean my house is now that they realize that? Holy shit.
Yep, I used to have this thing called the power hour. Every day I would clean for 20 minutes and just slowly, little by little, everything gets magically clean.
Dude, I mopped my bedroom floor last night. That's how much I got done. Like, my bedroom was the last one to get done, got mopped last night. Like, but, this is it. And this kind of, I guess, goes back to the whole core of the group. We've gone wildly off topic several times. You gotta be accountable, and you gotta own when you're good as well as own when you're bad. I'm sorry, shut up.
Definitely a measure of self-accountability. Yeah. And then it's great to have, like, for Toxifying Masculinity, it's great for me to have this group to be able to go to hear from the other side, because a lot of the people there are cis heterosexual males, and to hear from them and just hear them be human beings is a great sort of like eye opener for me of like there are good people in the world, and then I get feedback from them like saying thank you for being someone queer here who can speak to these issues.
The thing
is we is this exchange of information, exchange of accountability.
Yeah. But not accountability in the sense of like, because it can be taken to dangerous levels. For anyone who watches any of the unfolding shit over the last years with Nexium, there's several series about it, survivors in their own words. Because one of the things that you do have to watch out for, where that accountability is when a predator is using it to groom you as a defender. Because you want to detoxify masculinity. Masculinity just doesn't prey on other genders; it preys on itself. It's most successful. It's most successful in preying on itself. And that's is it the core of what a man is Like, yeah, there's a lot of aggression there. I've felt it myself. Like, my body chemistry is more like yours now than it is like a woman's. Um, and I've definitely had those mood swings. I've definitely been like, holy shit, where is this anger coming from? Or, you know what, I'll just go out and say it because, that whole like, I want to fuck something right now. Yes, that does happen. That is, that's something that women don't necessarily have all the time. But holy fuck, is it more intense for men? I can confirm that. Um, and like, I'm not even bullshit. Like, I don't even produce testosterone all the time. Like, holy shit, I like respect yourselves, men, because that shit is strong, and that's not an excuse at all. I'm just saying, like, respect yourselves a little bit more, because holy fuck, that is an intense urge, and that's from somebody who went most of their life without experiencing it. Um,
I've had a similar experience. I was a little worried about, still sort of am a little worried about my sex drive because it's definitely lower than average. But I read somewhere online some studying about foods that naturally produce testosterone to help with that, amongst other things. And I found out about pumpkin seeds. I went and bought like a nice little pint container of pumpkin seeds, just sat there eating them like candy. They are
tasty and they're healthy.
And in the weeks that I was doing this, I definitely noticed an increase. And like every night, I would have a different partner. I would always be safe, but I would have a different partner.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's definitely a thing. Man cold is also real. I am more affected by illness now than I was before. So you men, you can have a little bit of vindication. Man cold is a legitimate thing. I am definitely physically less functional. Like, it is definitely harder for me to get my ass up. As like, I had H1N1 and I had a pretty high fever and I was still taking care of the kids. Like, I wasn't good at it, but I was still doing it. My partner, my late partner, also had it, and I was caregiving for him also. That's what a female body can do. Yeah, that's one of the downsides of being more comfortable in my own skin now, is I'm slightly more fucking useless when I'm sick. So you can have that one too, just a little bit, just a little bit. From me,
Now,
I've been on both sides.
did you get H1N1 from PAX?
No. I got H1N1 from several years ago. It was not fun. Notably because the funeral was my sister's, and because H1N1 is not a fun virus at all. I highly recommend avoiding it. Big 1 star on that Yelp review.
As far as viruses go.
Yeah.
It's like Ebola's like probably like a 0.
Mumps might have almost killed me, but I had some fucking amusing hallucinations along the way. I was 4, so.
What did 4-year-old Luka imagine? What came out of your tiny little mind?
There was an elf named Happy who lived in the wallpaper, and we had magical adventure. I can only remember. I was 4, and I was like, put it this way: my Catholic grandmother. My fever got so high, my Catholic grandmother had a priest give me last rites. Yeah, and I was vaccinated. So imagine if my body hadn't had practice. Yeah. So, and I came out of it without any lingering side effects, which is fucking rare when you know. Thank you, vaccinations. Because that really can't be said enough. Like, it's the 21st century. Do we really have to say thank you, vaccinations, because people don't believe we should thank them? Is that where we are now?
Well, we first have to get people to just wear a mask to like. We're not gonna go there.
Yeah, like I saw
that's a
something on
long
Facebook the
conversation.
other day. Yeah, something on Facebook the other day. Like, I told my grandmother this. She's still alive. We lost my grandfather earlier this year, but my grandmother's, still kicking. That's the Irish. That's the Irish matriarch.
It's also the women. I like women. If the husband dies first, the wife, she can usually go on and like have a social life. But I think it's the idea is that the social life for the man is usually through the wife because again, toxic masculinity. Men have trouble making lasting connections with each other or other individuals of different genders. Yeah. Continue.
I think it would be interesting to see how that applies in gay or trans couples because
Mm-hmm.
I am not a wife, but yet I am in that example. And like, that's not to call you out. That's just to say, like, I
Oh,
wonder
totally.
how,
Yeah.
like, I wonder what it's like for, but
Be-
we're like, oh, the only thing that they report about us are STDs. Like, they have no idea about anything else.
it's going to be so interesting seeing, like, I would say, I wouldn't even say my generation. I would say the generation after me. So I am technically a millennial. So it's the Gen Z, right? That's the next one.
I'm half and half. I'm half Gen X, half millennial. I was born in '81, so I was born right on the I'm the micro generation. I'm half and half.
So the Gen Zers who are growing up in at least in our circles seem to be growing up in without with less care about sexuality, at least gender aside, but at least less care about sexuality. And like you see like gay couples in middle school and like elementary school kids are being like, oh, are you gay? Yeah, okay, that's cool. And
I knew when you were 3. Like, yeah.
but it's going to be interesting seeing them grow up and have relationships, and I would say our generation as well, because we are some of the first gay relationships that are being shown and documented, and how we are going, exactly your question, how we are going to fare in these same social situations that heterosexuals have had. And that can be if we want to have a more no judgment heteronormative lifestyle or not.
And even though, like, I don't know, I think we're, in a lot of ways, we're in a new era. You keep hearing about, record breaking this, record breaking that. There are record breaking numbers of queer people in the world right now.
Who are actually
out.
Yes, thank you. Brain fart.
50 years ago, you and I would not be having this conversation. But I think in a lot of ways I don't think we can ignore what's going on, and we certainly can't. Like, I was sitting there, and I'm not even in fucking America, okay? Like, this is how exhausted it is. I can't even imagine how exhausting it is for you. How exhausting it is for me is I was sitting there going, it's such a nice day. My body was my body was gaslighting, like Mother Nature was gaslighting me. It's like 7 degrees, it's bright, it's sunny, 7 degrees Celsius. So it's like above freezing.
Yeah.
Warm even. I'm out in the middle of December in a fucking hoodie in North Atlantic. And then they're like, is this December or is this April? Like, holy shit. Am I in an alternate dimension? Is this actually spring here? Like, is this supposed to be summer or winter? But then I sat there realizing, like, this is such a nice day. It would be so easy to forget, like, just in that daze of having gaslit myself about what fucking reality I was in. In that daze, I'm just like, it would be so easy to just pretend like Donald Trump didn't exist. Then I realized that's how the fucking Holocaust denial started. I do not think that we have the luxury of going, oh, it'll be nice when it's over, because no, it won't.
It's this idea of, and I keep telling people about this. Luckily, I haven't talked about it on the podcast yet, so I feel like I'm safe in saying, have you seen The Midnight Gospel on Netflix?
No, not yet.
So it's basically a podcast that they put animation to, and the host always talks to these sort of spiritual people of various backgrounds. And one of my favorite episodes, they talk about hope and how we need to sort of get rid of the idea of hope because it just holds us back and holds us down. And let me give you some examples like, oh, I hope things get better. They don't because you didn't take any active steps towards getting better. You're just relying on hope. So smack. Oh, I hope he comes back to me. No, he doesn't. Smack. Oh, I hope. And there's a difference between hoping and setting a goal and working towards something.
Do you know what nihilism is? What it actually is.
Yeah, I know like a foggy version of it.
Yeah. And I'm only like just starting to study it myself. But most people think that nihilism is the longing for nothingness. It's not. And the example I saw was you have a test. Mm-hmm. You didn't study. Mm-hmm. You hope you do well on it. Mm-hmm. Does it matter? No matter, true nihilism, and like I said, and this is the example I did not create this example. But true nihilism is knowing that it doesn't matter because no matter what else happens leading up to this point, you will sit through a test, you will receive results, and the world will go on.
Yeah. That's
the important part. And that's, for me, like, I'm in a weirdly, like, and it sounds arrogant to say it, but when you're engaged in the pursuit of philosophy, you kind of realize how enlightened you're becoming at the same time of realizing how fucking far you have to go. But for me, I found that a radical acceptance of reality does not preclude hope. Because there are things that are entirely beyond your control. Mm-hmm. Hope is what little control we have over them. So, like, if you struggle with a subject and you've done well, like, but the base example doesn't take enough variables into account. Like, are you neurotypical? Are you, and one of the problems I'm finding with philosophy is that a lot of the thoughts aren't there. I mentioned this to my professor in the last tutorial class we had. If I had, like, he was asking us if we had any beefs or anything. I was like, the only thing that I can see is that these are very much examples of Western male thinking. Again, philosophers. They're trying to identify what makes a good human. And that is good for good's sake. Like, it is good because it is good, the end. Like, the metaphysical good. But because they're not thinking beyond themselves or their experiences. Like, at least in the material I saw, I only read Grounding for Kant. I understand he has experiences elsewhere. But because, like, it's very Western male thinking, and I don't know that it's their fault that they're myopic, but they cannot begin to define what makes a good human apply universally when you're missing more than half the equation.
It's literally what is good for the goose is good for the gander mentality.
and other various assorted genders. Yeah, like it's well, not that they really recognize them. Like Plato was flat out misogynist, but Greek. No offense, but ancient Greek, pederast, male-dominated culture. Like the whole thing about their art was it was for the it was still for the male gaze. People don't like thinking about that, but ancient Greek art was very fucking homophobic, like homosexual, completely. Deal with it. Please, Westerners, just deal with it. The democracy you love was made by fucking faggots. Like, please. Sorry, is that a word that it's?
Go ahead, yeah.
Okay. I don't use it.
It was made by bundles of sticks, just so everyone is aware.
Yeah, British cigarettes. But yeah, and it's that lack of like, oh well, this is the thought I have, and you're not wrong to have the thought. You're not, because that is your thought. That's your rationalization, your thought process, your long dark night of the soul, whatever you enjoy having. For me, it's a mix. Sometimes I'm feeling up, sometimes I'm not. But you can't just. It can't just be defining what makes a good person for you alone. There has to be a consensus. And that means looking outside yourself. That means looking at other people. That means listening. And it means knowing, and it's so hard, I know it is. It's so goddamn hard. But all you have to do is say, is this post talking about me? Do I exhibit any of the behaviors in this post? No? They're not talking about me. I don't need to reply. Move on. You can just let things go. Take your like. There's this meme that I keep referring back to. It's I know you've seen it. The pick your battles, and it's a skeleton from the warlord in front of the bigger army. It's like pick your battles. No, that's too many battles. No, put some of those battles back. That's too many battles.
Yeah. Oh
pick
God,
your
yes.
Fucking battles. Let the other ones go.
Yes.
That's how it's not easy. And I came from, being the repress everything, carry the emotional labor. So I really had a hard time letting things go. But once I learned to do that, I calmed right the fuck down. And then the weed helps with the rest.
Well, one thing I would like to touch on before we have to wrap up, just because you've mentioned it before in our gaming sessions, and I'd like you to expound a little bit upon it. And totally from your perspective, this does not necessarily apply to anyone else, but I know you take some issue with media presentation of M to F trans individuals versus F to M trans individuals.
Yeah, where the fuck are we? It's interesting because there are even... I came into a great deal of white male privilege exactly at the time when it doesn't benefit me. That's just my shitty timing. But there's an... I don't know how to phrase this without, sounding like I'm a transphobic asshole. Which would be an interesting position for me to be in, I think. I don't know if you can be flamboyantly transgender and transphobic at the same time. I don't know how that would work. Oh well, let's give it a shot. Trans women, I feel, have way more privilege than trans men. They are more visible. You read an article about, and I see it probably a lot because it's one of the things that I'm coded to see now. I am a transgender person. I am going to notice more when I think something is about, my identity. But invariably, it talks about trans women. Trans men. J.K. Rowling, in particular, directly attacked trans men. All the articles about it had prominent trans women issues. and trans men were, like, she literally called us retarded lesbians. Maybe not literally, but, you know, figuratively, literally. You know, like, we're so horrified, or we so want to escape our womanhood. Like, go fuck yourself. But where was that in the news?
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, yes, trans women, in a lot of ways, have it a lot harder than I do. But in a lot of ways, I'm way more invisible than they are. So where does that leave me? And that's part of the problem with being, you know, not only queer, not only trans, but queer, by being, you know, this is where all these intersections come in.
So if I think I'm hearing that you want to see representation, you want to see your story or a similar story, or even just someone who you can identify with on a screen or on the page.
Yeah, I had that, but then Marvel killed him. So I am team Iron Man. I imprinted hardcore on Tony Stark. He was the first person where I saw my particular creative twitches and quirks on screen. He's the first socially awkward yet socially successful person I've seen. I'm not social. Like, all of you listening to me right now are probably saying, oh yeah, bullshit. And the only reason I know that is because I've heard it before. No, I'm fucking happy in a hole with Wi-Fi. That's, you know, I'm not social at all. And that, just talking to himself or Jarvis, or like, that's who I imprinted with. But even that was neurodivergence. It wasn't normal. You know, it had nothing to do with money. It had everything to do with, you know, seeing some aspect that you've never seen represented in such a way before. You know, all respect to Chaz Bono and Elliot Page. I want more. Where the fuck am I?
Well, look,
and this is like, I don't want to sound like, how do you explain? And this is, I think, part of where we all fall into that issue of, how do we explain our feelings without sounding like we're accusing the other person? And the reverse of that is, how do we stop from feeling like the other person is accusing us when they're talking about their feelings? Because I feel that it's not a question of who's more deserving or who has more oppression or who has, like, they're different issues, but they're the same. And I worry that it's just going to continue to be a cycle, because that's, you know, the entirety of history. There's always an underclass. Why should there be an underclass at all? Let's just fix it all now. I know I'm an idealist. I'm also a realistic idealist. I know that's not going to fucking happen. Okay. And this is, I think, the you know, TLDR answer to your question is, I am an idealist, I know, but I'm also a pragmatic one. I'm well aware that my shit will never come to pass, because it's perfect in my mind anyway. And perfection I think would be very boring. And as awful as this life is, it keeps you on your toes. You know, curse or not, they say that, you know, the Chinese used to say, may you live in interesting times, is a curse. I think it would be more of a curse to live in absolutely boring fucking times. You know, there's a variety of, you know, there's a scale to which I will accept, but, you know, it doesn't have to be too exciting. We can do without fascists again, thanks. God, that's a scary place. I just personally, Preston, like, holy fuck, how fucking close.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, yeah, living it was too close for comfort.
Yeah, and I just like, so what I said about that, like that the accepting reality thing. The reality is that there are, yes, that is America. It's not your America, but it is America. Um,
Oh yeah,
and
no, I'm
even
I'm very well aware that
like,
in New York City I live in a bubble,
yeah,
because I
no,
come
I'm not
from the
talking
rest of
like you
America.
specific. Like, oh, you want to talk about your New York City bubble? Hi, I'm in Canada on a fucking island. You know how many new cases are in my city? Two. We've had less than 500 since it started.
Mm.
I'm I'm well aware of my fucking nice saran wrap up here. Um, it's just like I don't know how any of you are doing it. Um, like, but it's that acceptance of reality that like, no, y'all have to accept this now. Like, we're just as shocked as the rest of you. Maybe, well, maybe not just as shocked. Um, but you know, like the reality is Harari talks about, or Noah Harari in his book *Sapiens*, he talks about the history of the human race. Highly recommend the book. Highly readable too. We did not domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated us. That is my story, and I will stick to it. But he talks about how the the reason why we're so numerous is because no other, or very few other higher order, as we understand, higher order animals are comfortable working, because even the most complex brains can only biologically keep track of so many relationships. And after that, you can't trust the animal because you don't have enough of a relationship. You just cannot maintain the relationship. But then humans started making shit up. Not lying, because animals can lie. And he talks about this, like green monkeys have been heard making the warning calls for lions when there are no fucking lions around. But look, there's a tasty piece of fruit the monkey just dropped. Um, you know, so animals lie, but humans are like, the lion is the guardian tribe of my, you know, the lion is the guardian spirit of my tribe. So now anybody whose guardian spirit is a lion, that's a shared mythology that allows them to trust each other. The Crusades could be done. Two crusaders who'd never met each other, never even didn't speak the same language, didn't live in the same country, weren't even the same skin color, could go fight on a crusade together because they both believed in Christianity or in Islam. So we have the opportunity to recognize that this is a fucking rift in the fabric of reality, on a human shared myth level. The myth of the America that you thought you had was only half true, you know? And it's just like, I mean, I know how I felt when I heard about that White Lives Matter right up the road. Like we talked about, like it shapes your identity, your core identity. You know, what are you? I'm American. I'm Canadian. I'm, you know, Irish Newfoundlander. I'm a man. I'm an ally. If it shakes your identity, you got to recognize that reality is not what your identity thinks it is, and you got to figure out why. And that's really all any of us are trying to do, but the trick is to kind of try and do it together. I had my, you know, overblown philosophy student 2 cents. And that's why I changed my major to philosophy.
Well, Luca, I want to thank you for all this time that you have given me. We went over a little bit, and you had some technical troubles that the audience doesn't necessarily know about, but thank you for working so hard to be here. And I'm sure your kids need you for something desperate, like peeling more fruit.
We've been watching Cells at Work. I've watched it twice already.
Very cute show. Yes.
It's on Netflix. If you haven't watched it, it is absolutely fucking active. Like, did you know that I even looked up that whole thing where NK, you know, the NK cell starts laughing and is revitalized? That's fucking legit.
Yeah, I've known that for years.
I didn't. I looked it up because I heard how active. I was like, this is really fucking like I only vaguely remember high school biology. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's how the immune system works. Like,
Yeah.
so I looked it up, and it's like, oh yeah, scientists are praising it. Yeah, go fucking watch it. It's adorable. It's hilarious.
Mhm.
Um, and it manages to hit so like it's perfect. It manages to hit so many of the Japanese tropes, like the white blood cells of the tsunderes, the macrophages. I don't know if they're yanderes or because they're just smiling and happy and
Mhm.
cheerful, no matter like they're
And
like
they
the
turn on a
psycho.
dime, and yeah.
Yeah, but they never lose that whole like, oh man, my last little blood cell. Like they never lose that cheerful like. So I wouldn't like they're just the smiling death maidens. Um, NK is probably the yandere. NK
Mm.
and Killer T. Because those guys are just fucking psycho. But yes, sorry.
If you like that, I would also recommend, if you haven't already seen it, Food Wars.
I, it did come up. Um, I realized it was not a show I wanted to watch in the middle of the day when the taste of peanut butter squid made her imagine her being violated by tentacles. So, um,
Yeah,
I'm
that
like,
it's
okay,
a very weird show in
but
all of that Japanese tropeness, but the information that they disclose on cooking and food is really on point, and I've
yeah,
picked up some techniques from it.
yeah, but no, we started. So, I've already seen. I just found out about the show like 3 days ago. I've already watched the entire series through twice, and I just started it over. It's okay. I'm in finals. It's educational and it's fun, and I don't have to think. And I have what's called editor brain. Um, as much as I love the MCU, I could sit here and that's a whole different rant for another time. But I could sit here and I could drive like I don't know Death Stars through the giant plot holes. Um, anyway,
Yeah, we will. That'll be for maybe for the next podcast.
yeah, that's a different one. But um, it was my happy place until then. I was going somewhere and then I forgot. It's late. Yes, so now it's my new happy place. See, my brain. This is how I think. Like, this is how I think all the time. My thoughts going somewhere. Where the fuck did it go? Oh, there it is.
If you don't write it down, it's gone until 5 hours later, and you're like, yes, that's what I meant to say.
See, that's the nice thing. Like, I signed up for weed to be an apathetic burnout detached from reality, and somehow, I'm a fucking functional human being. I'd ask for a refund,
Congratulations.
but I just spend it on weed. So,
I love it.
yeah.
All right, Luca, I'm
I
going to
hope I
let you
gave you
go
enough
now.
material to work with.
No, I think, no, thank you for all of this. I'm going to it's going to be a joy to listen to this again. I'm being sincere. It's going to be a joy. And we would love to see you. I know you're not a social person, but we would love to see you at one of the meetings if you ever want to come and just hang out, just chat about guy stuff.
As it turns out, I'm an ambivert. I found this out when I went to Minnesota last year. Apparently, when I want to be around people, I'm an extrovert, and that's called ambivert.
Mm.
Because I don't know, like I didn't want to leave. Like normally I'm like, when the fuck can I? Okay, can I leave yet?
Oh, our group is totally like drop in, drop out, tune in,
Yeah.
tune off.
But for
Get
that, it's like But for anything else, like, can I leave? But that it's I don't want to leave.
all right. Enjoy the weed, enjoy the kids, and I'll
Not
see you
together.
soon. Not together.
Not together.
Not together,
But
listeners. Oh, I wanted to ask, but really, I can't believe I forgot this. Is there anything you want to plug? Any of your own games? You didn't really talk about that, or anything coming up?
Honestly, not really. I mean, there's stuff that I have in the works, but it's not really. Holy shit! I've done a podcast for the first time without having anything to self-promote. No, I mean, I just came here to talk about my perspective on, what being a dude is. So, I really have, I don't know, follow me on Patreon.
Okay. A link will be included in the notes to the show. And Luka,
I cannot promise that I am a regular poster. Full disclosure. I'm trying, but this is my first semester as a single parent. I have 4 kids in 3 schools. It's been rough. But good things going forward. Knock on every fucking piece of wood I can find.
that was more like a tap. I need to see we need to hear the knock, baby.
No, it's 9:30 and my next door neighbors are elderly, so. And I'm in townhousing. You're in New York. You know what townhousing is.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Once again, you have a great night, good sir.
You too.
Thank you for joining us.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.
A big round of applause for Luka, my final guest of season 1 of Masks of Masculinity. Feel free to say hi to Luka on Facebook, and let's all encourage all forms of positive masculinity in whatever package they come in. I'll be taking a week off of the podcast, so no show next Friday, but in 2 weeks. Until then, if you're man enough for you, you're man enough for us.